like this is a replica of a chip that we have as an American flag. Is it upside down on purpose? And the answer is absolutely hell yes, because America is in distress in large part because of this collusion between big business CEOs, tech lobbyists in DC, and those beltway bipartisan crap weasels in both parties who are selling out America's best and brightest high-skilled workers through something called the H-1B racket. And I know a lot of you out there have experienced this yourself. Those of you who work in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the information technology sector, who've witnessed it firsthand, who've experienced firsthand this atrocious treatment wherein American workers are forced to train their cheaper, inferior, low-wage foreign H-1B replacements before they're laid off or fired. If you've been paying attention at all, you know that it happened to Disney workers, Southern California Edison workers, workers from so many different companies, from Dun & Bradstreet to Pfizer to Cargill to Harley Davidson. And in fact, in the New York Post today, on the op-ed page in the Sunday feature section, my co-author John Miano and I have a piece on exactly this phenomenon that's called Dig Your Own Graves. That's right, American workers who are essentially handed shovels and told that if they don't cooperate, they won't get their severance pay, and told to dig their own graves and retrain and train the replacements who are coming largely from India and China. The H-1B racket is undermining and sabotaging American workers. There's also this entire racket of foreign guest worker programs, and that's what we talk about in the book. The first portion of the book is about the H-1B program, which many of you are familiar with, but just as many of you are not. It's a 25-year-old program that is supposed to bring highly skilled specialty workers to this country. We have many fun facts that you will learn in the book that don't get a lot of advertisement. One, for example, being that the H-1B program is used to import foreign supermodels to this country because, you know, there's such a shortage of beautiful American women here, right? We talk about a lot of the crap weasels who are doing the backroom deals and carving all the specialty loopholes and preferences that favor big business CEOs who have this insatiable appetite. John likens them to junkies who have this incurable addiction to cheap foreign labor. And we go through many of the lies that these DC front groups, funded by these CEOs and supported, unfortunately, by a lot of conservatives who should know better.
I introduced 2 amendments to improve legal immigration. One, to increase high-skilled temporary workers 5-fold, from 65,000 to 325,000.
Who spread the big fat myths about an American high-skilled worker shortage. And we trace the history of this going back decades and how it's been implanted and regurgitated and recycled over and over and over again. That has to stop. And honest brokers in academia, honest independent researchers, all universally agree that there is no such shortage. We have a lot of damning statistics that we talk about in the book that are irrefutable of the numbers of millions of American high-skilled workers with so-called STEM diplomas who are unable to find jobs at the same time that these Silicon Valley companies led by Google, and yes, the platform that I'm on, Facebook right now, spend millions of dollars lobbying Washington, claiming that there's this huge panic and shortage of these workers, and instead that they need to replace them with cheap foreign labor. We actually have an appendix in the book that talks about the exposed scheme, the big tech wage fixing collusion that was uncovered in emails in a lawsuit between Google and Apple, fixing wages of their workers. That's just the tip of the iceberg. What is H-1B but a racket to rig the market to disfavor American high-skilled workers in favor of cheap, foreign, mediocre, journeyman technicians, mostly from India? That's the dirty open secret about the H-1B program. These offshore outsourcing companies that are bringing their workers here to soak up all of the knowledge and then import it back home. How does that benefit Americans? It doesn't. And it shouldn't be a dirty word to put Americans first. H-1B visa holders, Karen Story says, are having a negative influence on older, highly experienced, skilled workers who are trying to find new jobs also. We definitely address that in the book, and I want to take this moment to really pay homage to so many of the academic researchers out there, independent researchers who have been on this issue for a long, long time, sounding the alarm. And that includes people like Norm Matloff at the University of California at Davis, who has a terrific blog. Just search it on any search engine and you'll find it, and who has flagged this issue and researched it extensively on the effect of these foreign guest worker programs on older American, experienced American tech workers. It's other researchers and academicians like Hal Salzman and Michael Teitelbaum, who just came out with a devastating book recently focused on busting this myth of the American high-skilled worker shortage that doesn't exist and has never existed. What current candidates will stand up to this? Bryson Todd Hamilton asks. Perfect question to tee up talking about the last chapter of the book, where do the 2016 candidates stand? And I think one of the things that distresses my co-author John and I the most is how there is so much bipartisan agreement and near unanimity in favor of vastly expanding, it's insane, expanding these H-1B visa programs.
I introduced two amendments to improve legal immigration. One, to increase high-skilled temporary workers fivefold, from 65,000 to 325,000.
At a time where there's a glut of applications for high-tech jobs in places like Google and Microsoft. In fact, we quote the Google CEO bragging that for every opening at his company, there are 1,000 applications. What shortage are they talking about? And yet you've got Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and even Ted Cruz, to my disappointment, who want to do everything from double to triple to quintuple, in Ted Cruz's case, the number of H-1B visas that are available to these largely offshore outsourcing companies from India. That is nuts.
I introduced two amendments to improve legal immigration. One, to increase high-skilled temporary workers fivefold, from 65,000 to 325,000.
Who's representing your voice? And there are quite a few big heroes, as many sellouts as there are in sold out. There are some real stalwart, vigilant heroes out there who have commanded the utmost respect from me. And you know how I feel about most of these crap weasels, right?
And let me just say one thing. No one in this race but me wants to reduce the number of legal immigrants. No one. Most of the people in this race, including some, quote, conservatives, want to double or more increase the number of legal immigrants in this race, the number of legal immigrants coming into this country. Let me repeat that. Almost everybody wants to increase, some by more than double.
And I've introduced 2 amendments to significantly expand legal immigration, to double the caps on legal immigration from 675,000 to 1.3 million.
One program in particular, the H-1B program, which some of you may be aware of, which is the highly skilled worker visa that we hear so, oh, we need all these highly skilled workers coming in. Well, the H-1B program brings in 65,000 people a year. 80% of them are at the lowest wage category of H-1B workers. They're basically computer programmers. And we've now seen a series of abuses that have now been made public, including Disney recently, that brought over 700 workers in this low wage category of highly skilled workers, but low wage, came over, and 2 Disney employees just went public this week with what happened to them. They had to train these people. The people at Disney were making $101,000 a year, 700 of them. They trained a group of Indians to come over here. They were all fired. The Indians replaced them and made $62,000 a year. There's one candidate in this race that wants to take that program and increase it by 500% to 335,000, and he claims he's a conservative. And I think you know who I mean. If you don't, I'll be happy to tell you. He claims he's the most conservative standard bearer. He wants to double the number of legal and 5 times the number of H-1Bs.
And I've introduced 2 amendments to significantly expand legal immigration, to double the caps on legal immigration from 675,000 to 1.3 million. One, to increase high-skilled temporary workers 5-fold from 65,000 to 325,000.
We have to also face the reality that what's hurting American workers, maybe more than anything else if you're an unskilled worker in America, is a huge amount of immigration that's going on in this country. And I'm not just talking about illegal immigration. Yes, we've seen 12, 15 million illegal immigrants here who are competing in primarily unskilled jobs. But in the last 14 years since 2000, there have been more people who have come to this country legally than any 14-year period in American history. And that includes the Great Wave. And you know, historically in America, what we've done every time we've had huge waves of immigration, they've been waves. And what happens to waves? Well, they come in and then they go out. They provide a respite. They provide a respite for a lot of reasons, for labor markets to adjust. One of the reasons that we see labor markets in such distress and wages not going anywhere is because there's a flood of labor coming in. And we have the Democratic Party who doesn't care. They say they care about the workers, but they don't. You know what they care about? They care about bringing as many people in to get as many of their votes as possible. That's what they care about. They care about power, and this is a way to power. And unfortunately, on our side, on the Republican side, we have the business community who sees labor as a commodity. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't see people as a commodity. I see people as individuals and valuable people whose wages should not be depressed to keep profits high by having people come into this country to keep wages down. We need a policy that puts Americans first, an American immigration policy that says no to amnesty, that says yes to securing the border, and that says that we need to dial back on chain immigration in this country, which is resulting in over 1 million people a year coming here to suppress our labor markets. It's a very simple formula, and it's not against anything. I'm the son of an immigrant, and I'll give you the experience of my father. He was one of the guys caught in the wave. My grandfather came at the end of the Great Wave in 1923. In 1921 and 1924, they passed 2 immigration laws that shut down immigration. After 1924, immigration was about 100,000 a year. It's now over 1 million a year in America today. It was 100,000 a year, and so my father was in Italy, and my grandfather was in America. For 7 years it took for him to wait so he could see his dad. You can say, well, we shouldn't do that to people. My dad would always say, America was worth the wait. It's worth doing it the right way, because it was right for America to take a pause and to make sure that Americans were looked after first, so when he came, he had the opportunities that the American dream will give to all of your children.